Hey there, welcome back. For this video, I'm going to talk about why I didn't match into orthopedic surgery part 2. This is part of the series talking about, the mistakes I made along the way, interview trail, away rotations. And for this video, it's mostly going to be about away rotations. I definitely made a lot of mistakes. I did some things right, but it doesn't really help you by telling you what I did right. I'm really focused on the things I did wrong. Hopefully, some of you might have more common sense than me, but others might not, and maybe this will help you to avoid making the same mistake that I made. So, the first thing I'll mention in this video, and it's the most embarrassing, so I'll start with it. I just didn't have the courage that was needed, and I'm gonna tell you a story. So I just didn't have the courage. I didn't have the backbone to ask for a letter on my first rotation from somebody who was so well known. So this guy was like an inventor. He had patents on the wall, pioneer in the field of shoulder arthroplasty, basically invented some versions of the reverse shoulder. When I was in clinic with him, I was constantly in awe of the way he spoke to his patients, the way he spoke about his research, the amount of knowledge he knew. People were coming to him from all over the world for revision shoulder arthroplasty. And, he was the guy. He was known. Later, when I went on away rotations and other rotations, people would ask me, "Oh, you worked with him? Oh, like, how does he design his implant? Like, how does he put this together? Oh, wow, his prosthesis, his implant design is like so amazing. Like, I was never able to learn how to use it. Like, attendings are talking to me about him, asked me about him, what was it like, all this stuff, and So here's the story. I worked with this guy for 2 weeks. I had already known about him from a previous graduate of that institution that this guy told me, someone who had matched into ortho, he told me I worked with this dude for 1 week. I asked him for a letter at the end. He said, "Write it yourself," and he gave me a letter. So for me, it's like it was low-hanging fruit if I had the backbone. So, I did my best. I performed. It was shoulder and elbow, obviously. He pimped me. He asked me questions, talked about the evolution of the shoulder, the evolution of the elbow. I mean, it was incredible. At the end of my 2 weeks with him, we're like in a boardroom. He had just given like this presentation to the whole residency department. Like everyone's there, the chairs, all the chiefs, the fellows. He was like pitching this new project. And the project was like a multi-institution project, and it was also another school that was participating was my next away rotation. So I like chatted with him at the end, and I was like, I'm gonna like tell people about this. And he was like, yeah, like I want you to go when you go to this next institution, like the university of this, like tell them specifically, find this person, like tell them I sent you and stuff. And he was so nice, and he like paused at the end of the meeting. Everyone's like chatting and stuff. I like talked to him on the side. He like paused, gave me his full attention, like super engaged, super polite. Like he stopped, paying attention to all these big shots in the room just to talk to me. And he was like, thanks for the 2 weeks you spent. Like it was great and everything. At that moment, I thought like I'm gonna ask him for a letter, and I just didn't. I just didn't realize that. I just thought in my mind like, oh, he's too busy. I'm not good enough. Why would he write me a letter? And I should have just asked. That's it. Like all you have to do is ask. And worst case scenario, you don't get a letter, or someone tells you, they give you a weak response, and you can just collect letters. That takes me to my next thing. As a reapplicant, I just collected letters. I basically messaged everybody, and then whoever showed me a strong response, I sent them my personal statement and stuff like that. And then I worked with them, and those who I saw were investing in me the most, I used their letters. So like you asking someone for a letter doesn't mean you have to use it. You can just save it. Then if 2-3 months down the line you end up getting more letters, then you can just drop off the letters that you feel like are not going to be as strong. So like that was a big mistake on my part, super embarrassing. But I just want to be honest with you, and I don't want anyone to go through the process of being unmatched like I did. So another one. This is another. This is something kind of that stings. That's just a big fault of mine that I messed up. So starting off in the beginning of first year of med school, I went around. Like like one of these Google review, people, or like Yelp people who just like, follow whatever you're told kind of thing. I listened and I went and got advice, and I sought advice from everybody who I could. Any previous person at my institution who had matched into orthopedic surgery, emailed them, I called them, messaged them. I went to the information sessions. I joined the ortho interest group. I talked to the chiefs. I talked to the attendings, talked to the fellows, talked to people on YouTube. I called them like Ortho Mentor and things like that. All these people, they made time for me. They gave me advice. They gave me good advice. They told me, they outlined for me a plan. Literally Ortho Mentor outlined for me like a plan to help me, maybe at the end of my first year. And then I talked to him again 2 years later, and he was like, okay, what have you done so far and all this? Well, guess what? Advice doesn't work unless you do. I just didn't follow through. I didn't perform. I didn't publish high volume research. I didn't get honors on all my rotations. I didn't do well in step 2. So at the end of the day, you can watch this video. You can watch all the videos out there that tell you about step 1, about step 2, the match, interview skills, this and that. But really, the advice, unless you do the work and, that motivation, all that stuff, it doesn't work unless you do. So you really have to take ownership. You have to take accountability. And that kind of goes to my next point is, I didn't really want it enough, I realized. So on my away rotations, and some of it's natural if you're at a place for 18 hours a day or whatever, but I just never had that hunger to be there the entire time. 4 o'clock came around, I was looking at the clock so much that people would notice. Or I was super excited about clinic, or we got to sit down, and I definitely enjoyed clinic, but I got one feedback from a resident. It was you enjoy clinic too much. I don't know if you're meant to be a surgeon. So, I didn't play the part. I didn't play the game properly. And here's an example of that. It was one time, this is my first away rotation, busy academic center. I'm doing a sports rotation. I'm really loving it. It's so fun. I even got to play with the scope a little bit. And then there's one day, it's a Friday, we finish the cases at 2 p.m. So, there's some downtime, there's nothing to do. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I need to be dismissed, I need to go. Because I didn't want to be there. Well, what was the setting? I was at the attending's office, me, him, and the resident. And they were just chatting, fooling around, talking, and they were including me. And I just didn't pick up on it. I just thought, oh, okay, I'm a rotator. All right, surgery's over. My job is over. I didn't engage. I didn't interact. I didn't socialize. I didn't work towards getting to know someone on a deeper level. And I was just constantly thinking I should be at home. And the whole reason for this is I had a bad mentality. I was bitter about the process of you have to be a rotator who shows up at 4:30 a.m. until, in some cases, the next day at 4:30 a.m. Or, you're in OR, double scrubbed. There's a fellow, there's a chief resident, there's an attending, there's you. I thought away rotations are for me to learn orthopedics. I thought away rotations are for me to learn to operate, learn how to use a drill. But, I was wrong. Clearly, no one's investing in me to teach me how to operate. Should have picked up on that. That was just not going to happen. And I should have gotten over it, and I should have just focused on building relationships, doing research, connecting on a deeper level with those who are important. On that note, one more thing I'll tell you is so crazy. I can't even believe it now. My first away rotation, I didn't even meet the program director. I didn't even think it was important. I just thought I'll just perform with the attendings that I interact with, the ones I'm assigned to cases with. There was another person at my home institution who we both rotated there, and he told me, yeah, I'm rotating on tumor. And I was like, why? Usually trauma's the high volume where you get the contact. He was like, oh, well, the program director there, is a tumor guy. And to me, it's just went over my head, what's this guy doing? Why is he wasting time? He matched, I didn't. So just goes to show, it's not about orthopedics. It's about who to know in orthopedics if you want to match. That's my experience. Let me know your feedback. Let me know if there's any topics that you think want to be covered. Happy to answer questions. I'm trying to post a video a day. My friends told me I'm going to run out of content, but I've made so many mistakes along the way, and the journey has been so long and full of anxiety. I got a bunch of topics to talk about.